Hello, everyone. Take a moment before we begin, not to prepare, not to translate, but simply to arrive. Because what you're about to experience isn't just another listening exercise. It's a shift in how you process English, how you respond, and more importantly, how you think. Most learners reach a point where they understand quite a lot, yet something still feels out of reach. Conversations move too quickly, words blur together, and when it's time to speak, there's that brief but frustrating pause, as if your thoughts are waiting in line to be translated. But what if that pause didn't exist? What if your response came naturally, almost effortlessly, as if English wasn't something you were constructing, but something you were simply expressing? That's exactly where we're going. Today, you're not just going to listen. You're going to step into real conversations, anticipate meaning, and begin to internalize the rhythm of natural English at an advanced level. And if you stay with me until the end, you may notice something subtle but powerful. You'll start responding faster, with more clarity, and with far less hesitation than before. So don't rush, don't overthink. Just stay present and let your mind do what it's designed to do, adapt. Now imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet cafe, across from a friend you haven't seen in a while. There's a moment of eye contact, a slight smile, and then the question comes, casually but meaningfully, how has your week been? At first glance, it's a simple question, but beneath it, there's an invitation to summarize, to reflect, to connect. Listen carefully. How has your week been? And before your mind searches too hard, let your response surface. My week has been quite busy, but in a good way. Again, allow it to flow. My week has been quite busy, but in a good way. Notice the rhythm, the slight rise and fall, the way the sentence carries both information and emotion. Now, let's take it one layer deeper. My week has been quite busy, but in a good way. I've managed to get a lot done, and I finally had some time to relax yesterday evening. There's something important happening here. You're no longer just answering, you're expanding. You're giving your listener something to respond to, and that's where real conversations begin. Because fluency isn't speed, it's continuity. It's the ability to move from one idea to the next without friction. Now shift the scene. You're at work. You're focused, perhaps slightly overwhelmed, and a colleague leans over and asks, "Do you have a minute to talk?" Listen again. Do you have a minute to talk? Now respond not mechanically, but naturally. Sure. What's on your mind? Once more. Sure. What's on your mind? Now extend it, just slightly. Sure. What's on your mind? I can spare a minute. You see the difference? You're not just reacting, you're managing the interaction. You're setting tone, pacing, and openness. And that's what advanced communication really is. Let's move forward. It's Monday morning, and someone asks you something that feels almost routine, yet always carries new meaning. What did you get up to over the weekend? Listen. What did you get up to over the weekend? Now answer. But let it feel lived, not memorized. I spent some time outdoors and caught up with a few friends. Again. I spent some time outdoors and caught up with a few friends. Now, expand it into something more vivid. I spent some time outdoors and caught up with a few friends. It was exactly what I needed after a long week. And suddenly, your answer becomes a story. This is where your English starts to feel alive. Because the goal isn't to say more words, it's to say something that invites a response. Now, here's something subtle, but essential. At this level, your challenge isn't vocabulary, it's connection. Connecting ideas, connecting emotions, connecting one sentence to the next so smoothly that the listener doesn't notice the transitions. Let's explore that. Instead of saying, I went to the park, you might say, I went to the park because the weather was absolutely beautiful and I needed a bit of fresh air to clear my mind. Listen to how that unfolds. There's a reason, a feeling, a purpose, and that's what makes speech feel natural. Now, imagine a different setting. You're at a social gathering. You've just met someone new. There's that brief moment of introduction, and then comes the question, so what do you do? Listen carefully. So, what do you do? Now respond not just with a label, but with a sense of identity. I work in education, and I really enjoy helping people develop new skills. Again, I work in education, and I really enjoy helping people develop new skills. And if you go a little further, I work in education, and I really enjoy helping people develop new skills. It's incredibly rewarding to see their progress over time. Now your answer carries meaning. And meaning is what people remember. Let's shift again. You're at a grocery store. A small, everyday moment. The cashier asks, do you need a bag? Listen, do you need a bag? Now respond naturally. No, thank you, I brought my own. Again. No, thank you, I brought my own. Or perhaps, yes, please, just one would be great. These are short exchanges, but they matter. Because real fluency isn't only built in long conversations, it's built in these small, frequent interactions. Now imagine you're sitting in a restaurant, the waiter approaches and asks, are you ready to order? Listen, are you ready to order? Now respond with ease. Yes, I'll have the grilled chicken, please. Again. Yes, I'll have the grilled chicken, please. Or, if you're not quite ready, not just yet, could I have a few more minutes? Notice the tone. Polite, clear, unforced, because advanced English isn't about complexity, it's about precision. Now let's pause for a second and reflect on something important. Up to this point, you've been listening, repeating, and expanding. But something deeper is happening beneath the surface. Your brain is beginning to recognize patterns, not just words, but how ideas are structured, how responses are shaped, and how meaning flows. And once that starts happening consistently, something shifts. You stop translating. You start anticipating. Let's continue. You're traveling. You've just asked for directions. And someone says, go straight, then turn left at the second traffic light. Listen closely. Go straight, then turn left at the second traffic light. Now respond not just to repeat, but to confirm understanding. So I go straight, and then turn left at the second traffic light. Got it? Thank you. Again. So I go straight, and then turn left at the second traffic light. Got it. Thank you. This kind of response shows clarity, confidence, and engagement. Now imagine you're waiting somewhere, a bus stop, perhaps. Someone beside you makes a casual comment. The weather's been lovely today, hasn't it? Listen, the weather's been lovely today, hasn't it? Now respond, but let it feel conversational. It really has. It's such a nice change from yesterday. Again, it really has. It's such a nice change from yesterday. Or perhaps, yes, it makes everything feel a bit more relaxed. Small talk may seem simple, but it's often where connections begin. Now let's deepen your responses. Instead of saying, I like this weather, try, I really like this kind of weather. It makes me feel more energized and motivated. Listen to that. There's emotion, explanation, and natural flow. And that's what we're building. Now, imagine someone asks you, what do you usually do in your free time? Listen. What do you usually do in your free time? Now answer with clarity. I usually spend my free time reading or going for a walk. It helps me unwind. Again. I usually spend my free time reading or going for a walk. It helps me unwind. And if you expand further, I usually spend my free time reading or going for a walk. It helps me unwind and reset after a busy day. Now your sentence carries depth. And depth creates engagement. Because people don't just listen to your words, they respond to your meaning. And as you continue through this journey, something important will begin to happen. You'll notice that you're no longer trying to build sentences piece by piece. Instead, sentences begin to form on their own, faster than before, smoother than before, and far more naturally than you expected. But we're just getting started. Because in the next part, we're going to move beyond simple exchanges and step into more layered conversations where timing, tone, and subtle meaning begin to shape everything you say. And once you cross that threshold, your English won't just be something you practice. It will become something you use effortlessly, instinctively, and confidently. So stay with me, because what comes next might change the way you experience English entirely. And now, without resetting your focus, without stepping out of that rhythm you've just begun to feel, let's move forward. Because something interesting happens at this stage. You're no longer just responding. You're beginning to navigate time's conversations, and that requires a slightly different kind of awareness. Not just what is being said, but why it's being said, how it's being said, and what kind of response it invites. So let's step into a situation where that awareness really matters. You're on the phone. No facial expressions, no gestures, no visual cues, just voice, tone, and timing. And suddenly, everything depends on how well you listen. You call a restaurant, and someone answers, "Good evening. How can I help you?" Listen carefully. "Good evening. How can I help you?" Now respond not rushed, not hesitant, just clear. "Good evening. I'd like to make a reservation for tomorrow evening." Again. "Good evening. I'd like to make a reservation for tomorrow evening." Now extend it slightly, as you would in a real situation. "Good evening. I'd like to make a reservation for tomorrow evening. Do you have anything available around 7?" Notice how natural that feels. You're not just stating your intention, you're guiding the conversation forward. And that's a key shift. Now imagine something else. You've called a friend, but they're in the middle of something. Their voice is slightly hurried, and they say, "Can I call you back later?" Listen, "Can I call you back later?" Now respond in a way that feels effortless. "Of course, no problem. Speak to you later." Again, "Of course, no problem. Speak to you later." Or, if you want to soften it just a bit more, "Of course, take your time. I'll catch up with you later." Now your tone carries understanding. And that's what makes conversations feel smooth. Let's move into a different environment. You're in a clothing store. You're browsing, perhaps unsure, and a shop assistant approaches with that familiar question, "What size are you looking for?" Listen, "What size are you looking for?" Now respond clearly. "I'm looking for a medium." Again, "I'm looking for a medium." Now expand it slightly, making it more specific. "I'm looking for a medium, preferably in a darker color, if you have one." Now you're not just answering, you're refining your request. And that's how conversations become efficient. Now imagine you need help finding something. You approach someone and say, "Excuse me, could you help me find the shoes section?" Listen, "Excuse me, could you help me find the shoes section?" And they reply, "Of course, it's on the second floor." Now respond, "Thank you, I appreciate it." Again, "Thank you, I appreciate it." Short, polite, complete. These micro interactions may seem small, but they build confidence faster than anything else because they happen every day. Now let's shift into something slightly more complex. You're talking about a past experience. Someone asks, "Did you enjoy the movie last night?" Listen, "Did you enjoy the movie last night?" Now answer, "Yes, I really enjoyed it. The storyline was surprisingly engaging." Again, "Yes, I really enjoyed it. The storyline was surprisingly engaging." Now extend it further. "Yes, I really enjoyed it. The storyline was surprisingly engaging, and the acting was excellent as well." Now you're layering information, and that layering is what creates fluency. Now let's move forward in time. Someone asks you, "What are you planning to do this weekend?" Listen, "What are you planning to do this weekend?" Now respond naturally. "I'm planning to visit my grandparents and spend some quality time with them." Again, "I'm planning to visit my grandparents and spend some quality time with them." And if you expand, "I'm planning to visit my grandparents and spend some quality time with them. It's been a while since I last saw them." Now your answer carries emotion, and emotion makes language memorable. Now let's take you somewhere else entirely. You're at the airport. There's a sense of movement, a bit of pressure, and you're at the check-in counter. The staff member looks at you and says, "May I see your passport and ticket, please?" Listen, "May I see your passport and ticket, please?" Now respond, "Of course, here you go." Again, "Of course, here you go." Or, slightly more formal, "Certainly, here are my passport and ticket." Notice how even small adjustments can change the tone. Now you move through security. An officer says, "Please remove your laptop from your bag." Listen, "Please remove your laptop from your bag." Now respond calmly, "Sure, no problem." Again, "Sure, no problem." In these situations, clarity and calmness matter more than complexity. Now imagine you've arrived. You step into a taxi, and the driver asks, "Where would you like to go?" Listen, "Where would you like to go?" Now respond, "I'd like to go to the city center, please." Again, "I'd like to go to the city center, please." Now refine it. "I'd like to go to the city center, please, specifically to the Hilton Hotel." Now your language becomes precise, and precision is a hallmark of advanced fluency. Now let's move into a more personal situation. You're at a doctor's appointment. The doctor looks at you and asks, "What seems to be the problem?" Listen, "What seems to be the problem?" Now respond clearly, "I've been experiencing a headache since yesterday." Again, "I've been experiencing a headache since yesterday." Now expand it with more detail. "I've been experiencing a headache since yesterday, and it seems to get worse in the evening." Now your description becomes useful. Because in real life, clarity isn't optional, it's essential. Now the doctor asks, "Are you allergic to any medication?" Listen, "Are you allergic to any medication?" Now respond, "No, I'm not allergic to any medication." Again, "No, I'm not allergic to any medication." Or, if necessary, "Yes, I'm allergic to penicillin." Simple, but critical. Now let's move into a different kind of interaction, one that requires politeness and subtlety. You're in a hotel, and you need something. You call reception and say, "Could I please have some extra towels sent to my room?" Listen, Could I please have some extra towels sent to my room? The response comes, of course, we'll send them right away. Now reply, thank you very much, I appreciate it. Again, thank you very much, I appreciate it. Politeness isn't just about words, it's about tone, timing, and intention. Now, let's shift back into something more relaxed. You're talking with a friend. They ask, do you feel like going out tonight? Listen, do you feel like going out tonight? Now respond naturally. That sounds like a great idea, I'd love to. Again, that sounds like a great idea, I'd love to. Or, if you're not available, I'd love to, but I have an early start tomorrow. Now your response feels honest and considerate. And that balance is important. Now imagine another casual moment. A friend asks, what have you been watching lately? Listen, what have you been watching lately? Now respond, I've been watching a new series recently. It's really engaging. Again, I've been watching a new series recently. It's really engaging. Now expand. I've been watching a new series recently. It's really engaging. And the storyline keeps you guessing. Now your answer invites curiosity. And curiosity keeps conversations alive. Now let's pause for just a moment. Because something is changing again. At first, you were repeating. Then, you were responding. Now, you're shaping your responses. You're choosing how much detail to include, how to guide the conversation, how to express not just information, but perspective. And that's where advanced fluency begins to take form. But we're not done. Because in the next part, we're going to move deeper into something even more powerful, your ability to express opinions, react thoughtfully, and handle real conversations where there's no script to follow. And once you start doing that with confidence, something shifts permanently. You stop sounding like a learner, and you start sounding like yourself in English. So stay with me, because what comes next is where everything begins to connect. Now we move into a space where language becomes more than response, it becomes perspective. Because in real conversations, people aren't just exchanging information, they're exchanging opinions, reactions, subtle agreements, quiet disagreements, and sometimes ideas that aren't fully formed yet. And this is where many learners hesitate, not because they lack vocabulary, but because they're unsure how to times position, times what they think. So let's change that. Imagine someone asks you a question that seems simple on the surface, but opens the door to something deeper. What do you think about online learning? Listen, what do you think about online learning? Now respond not just with an answer, but with a point of view. I think online learning can be incredibly convenient, especially for people with busy schedules. Again, I think online learning can be incredibly convenient, especially for people with busy schedules. Now let it evolve. I think online learning can be incredibly convenient, especially for people with busy schedules, although it does require a certain level of discipline to stay consistent. Now you're doing something important. You're not just stating an opinion, you're balancing it. And balance is what makes your English sound thoughtful, not mechanical. Let's continue. Someone asks, what's your opinion on living in big cities? Listen, what's your opinion on living in big cities? Now respond naturally. I think living in a big city can be exciting. There's always something happening. Again, I think living in a big city can be exciting. There's always something happening. Now expand it with contrast. I think living in a big city can be exciting. There's always something happening. But at the same time, it can feel overwhelming if you don't take time to slow down. Now your response feels complete. Because real opinions are rarely one-sided. Now let's shift into something more interactive. A friend looks at you and says, "I'm feeling a bit bored. Any ideas?" Listen. "I'm feeling a bit bored. Any ideas?" Now respond with a suggestion. You could try going for a walk, it might help clear your mind. Again, you could try going for a walk, it might help clear your mind. Or offer an alternative. Maybe you could watch something light, or read a book you've been putting off. Notice how natural that feels. You're not giving instructions, you're offering possibilities. Now, let's take it a step further. Someone asks you directly, "How can I improve my English speaking?" Listen, "How can I improve my English speaking?" Now, respond with clarity. The most effective way is to practice consistently, even if it's just a few minutes each day. Again, the most effective way is to practice consistently, even if it's just a few minutes each day. Now expand it into something more reflective. The most effective way is to practice consistently, even if it's just a few minutes each day, and to focus on speaking out loud rather than just thinking silently. Now your answer carries experience, and that's what people trust. Let's move into agreement and disagreement, something subtle but essential. Someone says, "I believe grammar is the most important part of learning English." Listen, "I believe grammar is the most important part of learning English." Now agree politely. "I see what you mean. Grammar definitely plays an important role." Again, "I see what you mean. Grammar definitely plays an important role." Now, gently shift your perspective. "I see what you mean. Grammar definitely plays an important role, but I think practical speaking experience is just as important, if not more." That's how you disagree without creating tension. You acknowledge, then you add. Now, let's explore a moment where you don't fully understand something. Because this happens to everyone, even advanced learners. Someone speaks quickly, and you miss part of it. Instead of freezing, you say, "Sorry. Could you say that again?" Listen. "Sorry. Could you say that again?" Now, slightly more refined. "Sorry. Could you repeat that a bit more slowly?" Again. "Sorry. Could you repeat that a bit more slowly?" These phrases are not signs of weakness. They're tools of control, because when you can manage a conversation, you don't lose confidence, you maintain it. Now let's move into something more human. A friend shares something with you. "I went to a concert last weekend." Listen, "I went to a concert last weekend." Now respond with interest. "That sounds amazing. Who did you go to see?" Again, "That sounds amazing. Who did you go to see?" Or, "Really? I'd love to hear more about it." Now you're doing something subtle but powerful. You're keeping the conversation alive. Because communication isn't just about expressing yourself, it's about creating space for others to speak. Now, let's deepen your ability to describe experiences. Someone asks, "How was your last holiday?" Listen, "How was your last holiday?" Now respond, "It was absolutely wonderful. I spent most of my time by the beach." Again, "It was absolutely wonderful. I spent most of my time by the beach." Now expand it into something vivid. "It was absolutely wonderful. I spent most of my time by the beach, swimming during the day, and enjoying the local food in the evenings." Now your listener can picture it. And when people can picture what you're saying, they stay engaged. Let's continue. Someone asks, "What did you do last weekend?" Listen, "What did you do last weekend?" Now respond, "I stayed in and watched a few movies. It was quite relaxing." Again, "I stayed in and watched a few movies. It was quite relaxing." Now, expand. "I stayed in and watched a few movies because the weather wasn't great, but it turned out to be exactly what I needed. Now your answer feels real because it reflects both action and feeling. Now let's move into describing your day. Someone asks, "How was your day?" Listen, "How was your day?" Now respond, "It was quite busy, but productive." Again, "It was quite busy, but productive." Now expand. "It was quite busy, but productive. I managed to complete everything I had planned, which felt satisfying." Now your response carries a sense of closure. And that's something people connect with. Let's shift into emotions. Someone asks, "How are you feeling today?" Listen, "How are you feeling today?" Now respond, "I'm feeling quite good today, more relaxed than usual." Again, "I'm feeling quite good today, more relaxed than usual." Or, "I'm a bit tired. To be honest, I didn't get much sleep last night." Now, your language becomes personal, and personal language builds connection. Now, let's explore comparison. Someone asks, "Do you prefer tea or coffee?" Listen, "Do you prefer tea or coffee?" Now respond, "I tend to prefer coffee. It helps me stay focused." Again, "I tend to prefer coffee. It helps me stay focused." Or, "I usually prefer tea. It's more calming, especially in the evening." Now your answer reflects preference times and times reasoning, and that combination makes your English sound complete. Let's go a little further. Someone asks, "Do you prefer watching movies at home or at the cinema?" Listen, "Do you prefer watching movies at home or at the cinema?" Now respond, "I generally prefer watching movies at home. It's more comfortable, and I can pause whenever I want." Again, "I generally prefer watching movies at home. It's more comfortable, and I can pause whenever I want." Or, "I prefer going to the cinema. The atmosphere and sound make the experience more immersive." Now your language carries nuance. And nuance is what separates intermediate from advanced. Now, take a moment to notice something. You're no longer just forming sentences. You're forming times, thoughts, times in English. Connected, layered, natural thoughts. And once that becomes your default, everything changes. Because now, you're not translating ideas. You're expressing them directly, but we're about to go even deeper. Because in the next part, you'll begin to handle something even more dynamic: real-time planning, spontaneous decisions, and conversations that shift direction without warning. And once you can move through those moments without hesitation, you're no longer practicing English. You're living in it. So stay with me, because this is where your fluency starts to feel effortless. Now, we move into a part of communication that feels simple on the surface, but quietly reveals how fluent you really are. Because making plans is never just about exchanging information. It's about timing, flexibility, tone, and subtle decision-making all happening in real time. And if you've ever felt unsure in these moments, it's not because the language is difficult. It's because the conversation is times alive. So let's step into it. Imagine a friend messages you. "Do you want to meet this weekend?" Listen, "Do you want to meet this weekend?" Now respond naturally. "Yes, that sounds like a great idea." Again, "Yes, that sounds like a great idea." Now let it flow into something more specific. "Yes, that sounds like a great idea. How about Saturday afternoon?" Notice what just happened. You didn't just accept, you moved the conversation forward. And that's what fluent speakers do instinctively. They don't wait, they guide. Now imagine the conversation continues. "Where should we meet?" Listen, "Where should we meet?" Now respond, "Let's meet at the cafe near the station." Again, "Let's meet at the cafe near the station." Now expand it, just slightly. Let's meet at the cafe near the station. It's usually quiet and easy to find. Now your suggestion feels considered, not random, and that creates confidence. Now imagine your friend hesitates. Is there anywhere else we could go? Listen, is there anywhere else we could go? Now respond flexibly. Sure, we could also meet at the park if the weather's nice. Again. Sure, we could also meet at the park if the weather's nice. Flexibility is one of the clearest signs of fluency because real conversations rarely follow a fixed path. Now, let's move into time. What time works for you? Listen. What time works for you? Now respond clearly. Around 2 o'clock works well for me. Again. Around 2 o'clock works well for me. Or, I'm free after 3. If that suits you better. Now your response adapts to the other person. And that's where communication becomes collaborative. Now let's introduce something more realistic. Plans don't always go as expected. And how you handle that says a lot about your fluency. Imagine you need to cancel. I'm really sorry, but I can't make it tomorrow. Listen, I'm really sorry, but I can't make it tomorrow. Now say it naturally. I'm really sorry, but I can't make it tomorrow. Again. I'm really sorry, but I can't make it tomorrow. Now soften it and offer an alternative. I'm really sorry, but I can't make it tomorrow. Could we reschedule for another day? Now your message feels respectful and considerate. And that matters more than perfect grammar. Now let's shift into invitations. You say, would you like to come to my birthday party? Listen. Would you like to come to my birthday party? Now respond positively. I'd love to thank you for inviting me. Again, I'd love to thank you for inviting me. Or politely decline. I'd really like to, but I won't be able to make it. Thank you so much for the invitation. Now your response carries warmth, even when it's a no. And that's an important skill. Now, let's move into the future. Someone asks, what are your plans for next month? Listen, what are your plans for next month? Now respond, I'm planning to take a short trip and spend some time relaxing. Again, I'm planning to take a short trip and spend some time relaxing. Now expand it. I'm planning to take a short trip and spend some time relaxing. I've been needing a break for a while. Now your answer feels personal, and personal answers create connection. Let's continue. Someone asks, what are you doing after work today? Listen, what are you doing after work today? Now respond, I'm meeting a friend for coffee. Again, I'm meeting a friend for coffee. Now expand it naturally. I'm meeting a friend for coffee, and then we might go for a walk if the weather stays nice. Now your sentence flows, and flow is everything, because fluency is not about knowing more. It's about moving smoothly from one idea to the next. Now, let's explore something slightly deeper. Preferences. Not just what you like, but times why times you like it. Someone asks, do you enjoy cooking? Listen, do you enjoy cooking? Now respond. Yes, I really enjoy cooking. It helps me relax. Again. Yes, I really enjoy cooking. It helps me relax. Now expand it. Yes, I really enjoy cooking. It helps me relax, and I like experimenting with new recipes. Now your answer becomes expressive. And expression is what makes your English feel natural. Now let's try another one. Do you like traveling? Listen, do you like traveling? Now respond. Yes, I absolutely love traveling. It allows me to experience new cultures. Again, yes, I absolutely love traveling. It allows me to experience new cultures. Now expand it further. Yes, I absolutely love traveling. It allows me to experience new cultures, try different food, and see the world from a different perspective. Now your language carries depth, and depth keeps people listening. Now let's explore something important. Negative responses, but done gracefully. Do you like cold weather? Listen. Do you like cold weather? Now respond. Not particularly. I tend to prefer warmer climates. Again. Not particularly. I tend to prefer warmer climates. Now expand it. Not particularly. I tend to prefer warmer climates because I enjoy spending time outdoors. Now your answer feels honest, but still positive. And that balance is essential. Now let's move into abilities. Can you play a musical instrument? Listen. Can you play a musical instrument? Now respond. Yes, I can play the piano. Again. Yes, I can play the piano. Now expand. Yes, I can play the piano, and I've been practicing for several years. Now, your answer carries experience. Let's try another. Can you drive? Listen. Can you drive? Now respond. Yes, I can. I usually drive to work. Again. Yes, I can. I usually drive to work. Now expand. Yes, I can. I usually drive to work because it's more convenient than public transport. Now your response includes reasoning, and reasoning adds clarity. Now let's handle something slightly more delicate. Can you swim? Listen. Can you swim? Now respond. Not yet, but I'd like to learn. Again. Not yet, but I'd like to learn. This kind of answer shows openness, and openness keeps conversations comfortable. Now let's move into frequency. How often do you exercise? Listen. How often do you exercise? Now respond. I usually exercise 3 times a week. Again. I usually exercise 3 times a week. Now expand. I usually exercise 3 times a week, mostly in the mornings when I have more energy. Now your answer becomes more specific. And specificity creates clarity. Let's try another. How often do you watch TV? Listen. How often do you watch TV? Now respond. I usually watch TV in the evenings. Again. I usually watch TV in the evenings. Now expand it. I usually watch TV in the evenings, but on weekends I prefer watching movies instead. Now, your language adapts naturally, and that adaptability is what makes conversations feel effortless. Now pause for a moment, because something important is happening again. You're no longer focusing on individual sentences. You're starting to times flow times between them. Ideas connect. Responses feel immediate. And you're beginning to trust your instincts. That's the turning point. But we're not finished. Because in the next part, we'll move into something even more immersive, describing your world, your environment, your experiences in a way that feels vivid, natural, and unmistakably yours. And once you can do that, your English won't just be fluent. It will be expressive. So stay with me, because this is where your voice truly begins to take shape. Now we arrive at something that quietly transforms your English from functional to expressive. Because up until now, you've been responding, reacting, navigating. But here, you begin to paint times with language. You begin to describe your world in a way that allows someone else to see it, feel it, almost step into it. And once you can do that, your English stops sounding practiced and starts sounding personal. So let's begin somewhere simple. A question you've heard many times before, but now you'll answer it differently. Where do you live? Listen. Where do you live? Now respond. I live in a small apartment. Again. I live in a small apartment. Now let it unfold. I live in a small apartment, just outside the city center. And now, take it one step further. I live in a small apartment, just outside the city center. It's quiet, but still close enough to everything I need. Now your answer creates an image. And that's the shift. Let's continue. Someone asks you, what's your neighborhood like? Listen, what's your neighborhood like? Now respond. It's quite quiet and friendly. Again. It's quite quiet and friendly. Now expand. It's quite quiet and friendly, with a few small shops and a park nearby. And now, bring it to life. It's quite quiet and friendly, with a few small shops and a park nearby where people often go for walks in the evening. Now your words carry movement. They carry atmosphere. And that's what makes people listen. Now let's widen the view. Someone asks, can you tell me about your city? Listen, can you tell me about your city? Now respond. It's a large and busy city. Again, it's a large and busy city. Now, expand it. It's a large and busy city with a mix of modern buildings and traditional areas. And now, give it depth. It's a large and busy city with a mix of modern buildings and traditional areas. There's always something happening, no matter what time of day it is. Now your description feels real because it reflects experience, not just vocabulary. Let's move into something more personal. What's your favorite place in your city? Listen, what's your favorite place in your city? Now respond. My favorite place is the park. Again, my favorite place is the park. Now, expand it. My favorite place is the park because it's peaceful and full of greenery. And now, make it vivid. My favorite place is the park because it's peaceful and full of greenery. It's where I go when I need to clear my mind or simply slow down. Now your answer carries emotion, and emotion is what people remember. Now, let's shift into experiences. Have you ever visited another country? Listen, have you ever visited another country? Now respond. Yes, I've visited France. Again. Yes, I've visited France. Now expand. Yes, I visited France. I went there last year. And now, make it immersive. Yes, I visited France. I went there last year and had the chance to see Paris, which was even more beautiful than I expected. Now your listener is no longer just hearing you. They're imagining it with you. Let's continue. Have you ever been to the mountains? Listen, have you ever been to the mountains? Now respond. Yes, I have. Again. Yes, I have. Now expand. Yes, I have. I went hiking with some friends. And now, deepen it. Yes, I have. I went hiking with some friends, and the view from the top was absolutely breathtaking. Now, your sentence holds a moment, and that's powerful. Now let's move forward in time. Where would you like to go in the future? Listen, where would you like to go in the future? Now respond. I'd like to visit Japan. Again. I'd like to visit Japan. Now expand. I'd like to visit Japan because I'm interested in the culture. And now, bring it to life. I'd like to visit Japan because I'm fascinated by the culture, the food, and the contrast between tradition and modern life. Now your answer feels intentional. And intention makes your English sound confident. Now let's shift into something closer to your daily life. Because fluency isn't just about big experiences. It's about how clearly and naturally you can describe the things you do every day. Someone asks, what do you usually do at work? Listen, what do you usually do at work? Now respond. I usually answer emails and attend meetings. Again, I usually answer emails and attend meetings. Now, expand. I usually answer emails and attend meetings, but I also work on projects with my team. And now, make it flow. I usually answer emails and attend meetings, but I also spend time working on projects with my team, which I really enjoy. Now your answer feels complete because it includes action, structure, and feeling. Let's continue. What do you do after classes? Listen. What do you do after classes? Now respond. I usually do my homework. Again, I usually do my homework. Now, expand. I usually do my homework, and then I review my notes. And now, bring it together. I usually do my homework, and then I review my notes to make sure I understand everything before the next day. Now your answer shows intention. And intention makes your English feel purposeful. Now let's move into responsibilities. Do you help with housework? Listen. Do you help with housework? Now respond. Yes, I do. Again. Yes, I do. Now, expand. Yes, I help with cleaning and cooking. And now, make it more natural. Yes, I help with cleaning and cooking. I usually prepare dinner a couple of times a week. Now your answer reflects real life. And that's what builds authenticity. Now let's slow down into something more reflective. What do you usually do before going to bed? Listen. What do you usually do before going to bed? Now respond. I usually read a book. Again. I usually read a book. Now, expand. I usually read a book, and sometimes I plan the next day. And now, let it flow. I usually read a book, and sometimes I take a few minutes to plan the next day. It helps me feel more organized. Now your language feels calm, and calm language has a rhythm people enjoy listening to. Now let's move into lifestyle. Do you exercise regularly? Listen. Do you exercise regularly? Now respond. Yes, I do. I exercise a few times a week. Again. Yes, I do. I exercise a few times a week. Now, expand. Yes, I do. I exercise a few times a week, usually by going for a run or doing some light workouts at home. Now your answer feels specific. And specificity is what makes language believable. Let's continue. Do you follow a healthy diet? Listen. Do you follow a healthy diet? Now respond. I try to eat healthy most of the time. Again. I try to eat healthy most of the time. Now, expand. I try to eat healthy most of the time, although I do enjoy sweets occasionally. Now your answer feels balanced. And balance makes your English sound natural. Now let's return to something familiar, your weekend. How do you usually spend your Sunday? Listen. How do you usually spend your Sunday? Now respond. I usually relax at home. Again. I usually relax at home. Now, expand. I usually relax at home, watch something, or meet friends. And now, bring it together. I usually relax at home, watch something, or meet friends in the evening. It's a good way to reset before the week starts. Now your answer carries rhythm, and rhythm keeps your speech flowing. Now take a moment, because what you're doing now is different from where you started. You're not searching for words. You're shaping experiences. You're choosing how to describe, how to connect, how to express. And that means something important has already changed. But we're going to take it one step further. Because in the next part, we'll move into real-world interactions that require quick thinking, polite phrasing, and natural reaction situations where you don't have time to prepare. And once you can handle those smoothly, you'll realize something. You're no longer catching up to the conversation. You're moving with it. So stay with me, because this is where everything begins to feel effortless. Now we move into moments where there's no time to prepare, no time to translate, no time to carefully build your sentence piece by piece, because real life doesn't pause for you to think. And yet, this is exactly where fluency reveals itself, not when everything is perfect, but when everything is times happening. So, let's step into it. You're in a shop. You're not just browsing anymore, you're interacting. A shop assistant approaches and asks, "Can I help you find something?" Listen, "Can I help you find something?" Now respond naturally. "Yes, I'm looking for a jacket." Again. "Yes, I'm looking for a jacket." Now refine it. "Yes, I'm looking for a jacket, preferably something lightweight." Now your response feels intentional, and intention creates clarity. Now imagine you pick something up. You want to know the price. You ask, "How much is this?" Listen, "How much is this?" The answer comes, "It's $50." Now respond, "All right, I'll take it." Again, "All right, I'll take it." Or, if you hesitate, "I'll think about it for a moment." Now your language reflects your decision in real time. Let's shift quickly. You're in a supermarket. You're searching for something, and you ask, "Excuse me, where can I find the bread?" Listen, "Excuse me, where can I find the bread?" The reply comes, "It's in aisle 3. Now respond, "Thank you, that's very helpful." Again, "Thank you, that's very helpful." These small exchanges matter because they train you to react times without delay. Now, let's move into something slightly more dynamic. You're at a market. You say, "Could I have half a kilo of apples, please?" Listen, "Could I have half a kilo of apples, please?" The seller hands them to you. "Here you go." Now respond, "Thanks a lot." Again, "Thanks a lot." Short, natural, immediate. Now let's step into a restaurant again, but this time, everything moves a little faster. The waiter asks, "Would you like something to drink?" Listen, "Would you like something to drink?" Now respond, "Yes, I'll have a glass of water, please." Again, "Yes, I'll have a glass of water, please." Now extend it naturally. "Yes, I'll have a glass of water, please, and I might order a coffee later." Now your response leaves room for what comes next. Now imagine the waiter returns. "How is everything?" Listen, "How is everything?" Now respond, "Everything's great, thank you." Again, "Everything's great, thank you." Now expand it slightly. "Everything's great. Thank you. The food is really delicious." Now your response feels appreciative and complete. Now it's time to leave. You say, "Could I have the bill, please?" Listen, "Could I have the bill, please?" The waiter replies, "I'll bring it right away." Now respond, "Thank you, I appreciate it." Again, "Thank you, I appreciate it." Now let's move into something more relaxed again. You're at a cafe with a friend. They ask, "Do you want to share a dessert?" Listen, "Do you want to share a dessert?" Now respond, "Yes, that sounds nice." Again, "Yes, that sounds nice." Now expand. "Yes, that sounds nice. Let's get something to share." Now your answer feels collaborative. And that's what conversations are built on. Now let's move into something deeper again, your goals. Because language becomes more powerful when it connects to something meaningful. Someone asks, "What do you want to achieve this year?" Listen, "What do you want to achieve this year?" Now respond, "I want to improve my English." Again, "I want to improve my English." Now expand it. "I want to improve my English so I can communicate more confidently." And now, take it one step further. "I want to improve my English so I can communicate more confidently, especially in professional situations and when meeting new people. Now your answer carries purpose, and purpose gives your words weight. Let's continue. What would you like to do in the next 5 years? Listen. What would you like to do in the next 5 years? Now respond. I'd like to start my own business. Again. I'd like to start my own business. Now expand. I'd like to start my own business, something that allows me to be independent. And now, make it more vivid. I'd like to start my own business, something that allows me to be independent and build something meaningful over time. Now, your language reflects ambition, and that changes how you sound completely. Now let's slow things down, because every conversation eventually reaches an ending, and how you close matters just as much as how you begin. You say, "It was really nice talking to you." Listen, "It was really nice talking to you." Now say it naturally. "It was really nice talking to you." Again. "It was really nice talking to you." Now extend it. "It was really nice talking to you. Let's catch up again soon." Now your closing feels warm and memorable. Now for something slightly more formal. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Listen. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Now say it naturally. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Again. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Now let's bring everything together. Not by repeating everything, but by flowing through it. Listen carefully. I try to stay consistent with my routine, even when things get busy, because I know that small daily efforts eventually lead to real progress. Now say it. I try to stay consistent with my routine, even when things get busy, because I know that small daily efforts eventually lead to real progress. Again. I try to stay consistent with my routine, even when things get busy, because I know that small daily efforts eventually lead to real progress. That sentence is more than practice. It's a mindset, because fluency doesn't come from one lesson. It comes from repetition, exposure, and patience. And if you've stayed this far, something has already started to shift. Your listening is sharper, your responses are faster, and your thoughts are beginning to form more naturally in English. Now take a moment to reflect, not on what you've learned, but on how it felt. Did the sentences come a little easier? Did the pauses feel a little shorter? That's progress. Real progress. And it doesn't happen by chance. It happens because you showed up and stayed with it. So keep going, keep listening, keep speaking, and most importantly, keep trusting the process. Because the more you use English like this, the more it becomes part of you. And at some point, so quietly, you might not even notice. You'll stop trying to speak English well, and you'll simply start speaking. And when that moment comes, you'll realize you've already crossed the line from learning to living the language. And now, we arrive at the final stretch. But instead of ending, let's do something different. Let's slow everything down for just a moment. Because what matters most right now isn't how much you remember. It's what has already started to change. Think back to the beginning. At that point, you were listening carefully, maybe still translating in places, maybe still holding on to each sentence just a little too tightly. But now, something feels different. The sentences come faster, the meaning feels clearer, and, more importantly, you're no longer waiting for English to make sense. You're starting to times experience times it. And that shift is everything. Because fluency doesn't arrive all at once. It builds quietly, through moments like this, moments where you realize you understood something without effort, Moments where you responded without hesitation. Moments where you didn't think in your native language first. And maybe, just maybe, you felt that happen today. Even if only once. That's not small. That's the beginning of something real. Now, let's do one final exercise together. Not to test you, but to anchor everything you've just experienced. Listen carefully. Over time, I've realized that improving my English isn't about being perfect, it's about being consistent, staying curious, and not being afraid to make mistakes along the way. Now say it. Over time, I've realized that improving my English isn't about being perfect, it's about being consistent, staying curious, and not being afraid to make mistakes along the way. Again. Over time, I've realized that improving my English isn't about being perfect, it's about being consistent, staying curious, and not being afraid to make mistakes along the way. Now pause. Because that sentence isn't just practice. It's a reminder. A reminder that every time you show up like this, you are building something, even when it doesn't feel obvious. Even when progress feels slow, it's still happening. Now, let me ask you something. Not out loud. Just to yourself. If you kept doing this consistently, even for a few minutes each day, where would your English be in 3 months? In 6? In a year? And here's the real question. What's actually stopping you? Because now you've seen what it feels like. You've felt the rhythm. You've experienced what it's like to stay inside the language instead of stepping in and out of it. And once you've felt that, it becomes much harder to go back. So don't. Don't go back to overthinking every sentence. Don't go back to translating word by word. Stay here. Stay in the flow. Stay in the feeling of understanding without forcing it, because this is where fluency grows, quietly, naturally, almost without you noticing. And if you ever feel stuck again, come back to this, not just to repeat the words, but to reconnect with this state. Now, before you leave, there's one more thing to remember. You don't need to be perfect to sound natural. You don't need to know every word to communicate clearly. You just need to keep going, because the people who become fluent aren't the ones who never make mistakes. They're the ones who keep speaking anyway. So keep speaking, even when it feels uncertain, even when it's not perfect, because every time you do, you're moving forward. And now, as this session comes to a close, I want you to leave with something simple, not a rule, not a technique, just a thought. English isn't something you learn once. It's something you grow into, step by step, moment by moment, conversation by conversation. So wherever you are right now, you're already on the path. And if you keep going, you won't just improve, you'll transform. Thank you for staying all the way through. And if you've made it this far, you've already done something most people don't. You didn't quit halfway. You stayed. You listened. You practiced. And that matters more than you think. This is English in motion. And this isn't the end. It's just the point where things start to feel different. So take what you've built here and carry it with you into your next conversation, and the one after that, and the one after that, until one day, you won't even notice the moment it happens, but you'll be speaking clearly, confidently, and completely naturally. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now, and take care. This is English in Motion, where your English doesn't just improve, it evolves. I'll see you in the next one.